We've also talked a lot about the Montreal Canadiens, and at number 5, they are in a position to really alter the face of the draft, because if we expect that it goes, Bedard, Fantilli, Carlson, Smith, in whatever order those 4 might go, then the draft probably begins in the 5th with the 5th overall pick. And, the question is, does Montreal go after Michkov? Do they take that risk? Or, as there's been a lot of rumors, and you never know, this time of year, it is smoke city. There are smoke screens everywhere. You never know exactly who's telling the truth, or if they're hearing things that are completely wrong. You never know. But a lot of chatter over the last couple of weeks, and especially coming out of the combine, seem to suggest that if Montreal had their pick, and then there's Michkov, there's Reinbacher, there's Leonard, they would probably take one of Reinbacher or Leonard. Now, it's an interesting position that the Canadiens are in. You think about their top 2 forwards right now, and you probably say it's Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield. That's the future of their team. It's their current captain in Suzuki. It's a potential 40 to 50 goal scorer in Caulfield, assuming he can stay healthy. And those are players that are undersized relative to the league. And so if you wanted to add another undersized dynamic forward like a Michkov, are you starting to repeat too many things? Now, I think Michkov can be an altering player, and maybe you decide, if you did pick him, maybe you try to make some other moves to beef up in other areas. But I think if you are the Montreal Canadiens, I completely understand the potential avoidance of a Michkov in looking for, hey, we're not going to take on that burden, but we are going to go ahead and we're going to say, hey, we believe that David Reinbacher can be a top pairing defenseman. Not everybody believes that, but if the Montreal Canadiens believe that, that's still a good pick at 5. There are good forwards there, but there's a lot of guys that are kind of, sub 6 foot forwards, guys that are, they don't necessarily have that size factor that I think Montreal could potentially bring in. But if they did say grab a Ryan Leonard, and then now you've got a more physical, powerful forward who's still sub 6 foot, but he plays a heavy game and he allows you to play a harder brand of hockey. So that's why I think Montreal still has this opportunity here to potentially move around. Maybe they trade back. There's a lot of options available to them, because I'm looking at a team like Detroit that, it feels like they're getting closer and closer. Do they get aggressive on the Michkov front? Do they try to say, hey, we've got picks, 9 and 17. Can we give you those to move up? I mean, I don't think that Montreal would have any interest in moving that far down the draft board, but is there another way to sweeten that pot, to at least make them consider it? And I think other teams, will have a question about this later, I think other teams might not really be willing to entertain the idea of trading up and then selecting Michkov, where you've now increased the risk factor because you've also spent assets to get that pick, in addition to just, picking a player that you won't see for a couple of years. But I think that Montreal is more and more likely to select in the safer realm in guys that they feel can be core pieces. Because you can, at 5 in this draft, whether you draft Michkov or not, you can grab a foundational piece to your team. It's not a franchise cornerstone. It's not a guy that's going to be the central to your building plan, but it's a guy that will allow you to lay further groundwork for the future of your franchise. So that's why I think Reinbacher and Leonard very well could be, what it's between.